Hey, you're missing a button.
Oh, crap. Oh, there it is. So you're traveling somewhere and your button falls off. In this video, I'm going to show you how to put it on quickly, easily, and securely. Now, this is something that I learned in junior high school, in public school. I don't know if they teach this anymore, but I found it tremendously useful, and it has helped me many times in the past. And every time I have used this technique, the button has stayed on, and I haven't had any trouble with it after that. So the first thing you want to do is put together a travel sewing kit, which just consists of this. And all it is a pill bag. These are super useful. I buy a bunch of these because I can put stuff in them and it makes it really easy to store small things. So in here, I've basically just got some needles. It helps to put it on some plastic backing so that it's much harder for the needles to poke through the bag. You could use something else like a piece of leather, maybe a piece of cardboard, something like that. It would serve the same purpose. And then just a small spool of thread. It's usually better to get black because that's the most universally useful usually. But put in whatever colors you want. And then obviously you need something to cut with. So in this case, I'm going to be using this knife, but you could use your teeth if you wanted to in a real pinch. So this is all you really need in this kit. Just carry this around with you and you're good to go. All right, so real quick, why do you need the skill? Well, unfortunately, clothes nowadays are not made as well as they were back in the day. For example, this shirt, I've had to actually sew back on most of the buttons. So I've sewn this one back on, this one, this one. This is the one that fell off. I've sewn this one back on, and these are the only two that are hanging on the front. As you can see, they're poorly sewn on, they're super loose, and they're guaranteed to come off at some point in the dryer. Now, I've heard that some people just get a new shirt if their button falls off. I don't know how true that is. That could be just an AI-generated meme. But if that is the case, then that's kind of sad because this is very simple to do. And I think this is a fantastic skill for everyone to have, and everyone should have it. So this is how you do it. Now, if you can't find the button that you lost, usually there's a button sewn onto the label on the inside. Or another thing you can do is take out one of the more inconspicuous buttons, like the one on the top here that you'll never use. So you can just cut that off and replace the other button with that. Now, the first thing you want to do is remove the existing thread if there's any there. You could use a seam ripper, and that makes it really easy to take it out. If you don't have one, then you can simply use a knife or any kind of a small sharp object like this. The first thing you want to do is get underneath the thread and make sure that it's broken on this side. I think it's already come off. So I'm going to use the point of the knife to pull out the thread from the back, and just be very careful that you don't damage the material. And then you can kind of pull it out with your hands. And then it looks like this part is a little bit stuck, so I'm going to stick the knife under there and pick at it a little bit. There we go. And then I can pull it out from the front, and I just make sure that all the thread is gone. Now I'm ready to sew the button back on. All right, the next thing to do is to figure out where you're going to put the button. So on this shirt, luckily there are some lines here, some stitching. So the button should go right in the middle of these three lines. Those are the ones that are on there already, so that's the best place to do it. So take a look at where the button was on previously. You can usually see some holes in there. If you can't see the holes, then take a look at the other side of the shirt. Here, you can line up the buttons like this, and then the hole is here, so I'm just going to put that button right there. And then you want to make it nice and neat, so you orient the holes so that they match. So the hole is facing down and up and left and right here. So same thing here, I want to put this right in the middle and make sure that the holes are aligned correctly so that they all look the same. Once I've got that all aligned, then just get some thread. I'm going to take this thread, 50 cents, that's probably pretty old. So I'm just going to take a little bit here. You don't have to measure this exactly. And then you can just cut it with your knife or your teeth or whatever it is. And there we go. So that's going to be about, let's see, 9 inches, 18. So that's going to be about 3 hand spans. That's going to be probably way too much, but better to have a little bit more than not enough. Next thing obviously to do is stick it into the eye of the needle, and it really helps to get these needles that have the bigger eye holes. It's really useful and makes it much easier to thread the needle, especially if your eyes aren't very good. So there we go. And then at the end of the thread, I'm going to just double this over, and then I'm going to make sure that they line up together like this, right? And then I'm going to create a knot at the end. So I'm going to go through the loop once, twice, and 3 times. And I'm going to do this because I want to create a big knot at the end, and That's so that the thread won't come back through when I'm sewing. And then I want to leave quite a bit of room at the end of the thread, because that's where I'm going to tie the loose end when I'm finished. So I'm going to pull that knot in there. As you can see, that's the knot there, and that should be big enough. And I have about this much left, so that's going to make it really easy to tie it on later. Okay, now I'm going to take the needle. I'm going to start from the back. So I want to hold this on and make sure the alignment's correct, both up and down and side to side. And then I'm going to start from the back and push the needle through one of the holes. So just like that. I'm going through that bottom hole. And then there, and that's where the knot sticks, right? So it doesn't go through all the way. And then I'm going to go through the hole that's right across it. And then before I do that, I want to make sure that the button is lined up correctly. So there, and then I'm going to press this through, and then just watch your finger on the other side. I'm going to push that through. Okay. All right, there we go, and I'm going to test the alignment a little bit, and I think I sewed that one in a rush because that's way off, but I want to make sure this one isn't off, so the alignment looks good. So I'm going to go through that hole one more time and do the same thing. And every time I want to make sure that I pull the thread all the way through so that everything's nice and tight. So go back through that way. Okay, so once I've gone through those two holes a couple of times, I'm going to go through the other ones. Again, I'm going to make sure this button is lined up. And I'm going to go through the back. And I'm going to go through this hole here, like so. And then I'm going to go through the opposite hole here. So again, I'll do that a couple times, and I want to make sure that the button's lining up. If it's not lining up, then I can cut this out and start all over. But this one looks pretty good. It's good enough. So I'm going to go through the bottom hole again. And then go through the hole across it. Okay. And then now I'm going to go through this bottom hole one more time. And then this is the part where I wrap it around the the base of the button, so that it makes it easier to button it, because there's going to be a little bit of space underneath the button. So I went through the bottom hole, then I'm going to go through the top hole, but not through the material, right? So I'm going to do this, okay? And then I'm going to wrap it around maybe 4 or 5 times. Okay, now I'm going to go back through this bottom hole, like that, and then I'm going to go through the top hole and then go through the material all the way to the back. Okay, and it's almost done. So now what I'm going to do is, as you can see, there's a lot of left over from when I started. So I'm simply going to tie 2 regular knots. Okay, all right, so that's nice and secure, and that makes sure that the thread is tied to itself and is not hanging off just with knots on the ends. And then from there, you can just get the knife, cut off the excess. And obviously that would be better with scissors or something else, but that's good enough. And that will allow you to do this while you're camping or hiking, and you can simply put a button back on and keep going. So if you found this video useful, you might like the video that's coming up next. Otherwise, consider giving this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and go learn some new skills. Thanks for watching.